What's up, everybody? Dan here from Headwaters Kayak, and behind me I've got the new Norse Kayaks. I've got the Ask, I've got the Embla. This is Ryland from Western Canoe and Kayak. He's serving as the rep for Norse Kayaks as well as Clipper Kayaks here on the West Coast, and he brought some boats down, so we're going to jump in them, paddle them. I'll bring you guys along, get some GoPro footage, and tell you my thoughts. So outfitting on this guy fits really well. I'm 6'2", 215, plenty of room. I got enough room to get my legs in and out without scraping my shins. So nice keyhole opening, you know, not too small. It's probably like, this is an XL skirt and it's too big, so I would probably go with the large size skirt. I get in this boat and it just feels like an extension of my body. It feels like I got more than enough room, like I could put some gear in it too. Lots of leg room. I would actually pad it out for myself. Even being 6'2", 215, I would actually do a little bit more on my knees and on the seat pan just to make it my own. But it's kind of nice. I first saw it, I was like, oh, it might be a little small, you know, 22 inches wide, but no, it's got plenty of room. I think that low seat actually gives you a little bit more room for your legs to be up inside. The keyhole cockpit fits me perfect, right on the meat of my thighs, right where I want to be. My knees push out here to the edge. Feels great.
So we have a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news from today's video. You see that GoPro mounted on the front of my kayak? Well, I forgot to get the footage off after this day, and on my very next paddle, I hit it with my paddle and knocked it into the water, never to be seen again. So the footage I got, surfing the wave, balance bracing in the eddy lines, rolling, all that footage is safely stored on the bottom of Lake Havasu. Thankfully, I was able to get Ryland in the water to shoot some video of me paddling it in flat water, and it really gives you a good idea of how this boat handles. You put it on a secondary edge, give it a sweep, and it just wants to come around right underneath you. The multi-chined hull is really confident on its secondary edge. When you drop your hip in the water, you know right where that edge is at. There's no questioning. The secondary stability is just huge on it. And also, when you put it on an edge, the boat becomes much shorter. That flat midsection allows it to just slide across the top of the water, just initiate with a little bit of edge. And look at that nose, just comes right out of the water. I felt very confident bracing in this kayak, doing high braces, low braces. In fact, I would really like to play with the Greenland paddle in this kayak because it was so easy to just drop down to the back deck and set up for a roll. I think it would really lend itself to somebody who enjoys Greenland paddling and Greenland rolling.
Playful little boat.
I was having a lot of fun playing with strokes in this kayak, and the one in particular that struck me was this. A quick bow draw, and that kayak came around, 45 degrees with almost no speed. It was just really, really easy to get the bow to come to the paddle. If you've watched my Kayak 101 and 102 videos, you'll hear me talk about bringing the boat to the paddle, as opposed to dragging the paddle to the boat. And this kayak really demonstrates that well. You see me anchor the paddle, and I'm able to move the kayak to the blade. And that's really what I'm looking for in a kayak. That's what makes a kayak fun. It's what makes it playful.
So this would have been Jesper Krome and Anderson's design on the cockpit. We will see a different seat on the next set of Asks and Emblas that come in. Primarily just more seat padding.
Cool. You know, honestly, I'm not a huge proponent. I don't care about seat padding all that much. I feel like you can always foam it out yourself, but I really like the long pan, and it just kind of conformed to you. It was actually fairly comfortable cockpit in this one.
Yeah.
I would say the back rest is pretty minimal. If you need back support, you're probably doing your own on this boat. So just a quick walk through the boat so you guys can get an up close and personal look at it. It's got toggles here on either end, which I like. Toggles you can swim with. Deck lines that run the perimeter. Really nice spare paddle storage. My paddle fit well into the spare paddle storage. Compass mount in the front. Kayak sport hatches all around, nice and watertight. One thing I really liked was this back bulkhead. You see how it's contoured and it's right at the cockpit. So when I wanted to empty the water out, it's just a quick lift of the bow, roll it in my hands, and the thing is going to be bone dry. I mentioned to you guys that I would add a little hip padding for myself. Very simple, low profile seat. Great fit in the cockpit. Fiberglass layup on this one. They do have a carbon one as well, and it's got that honeycomb fiberglass. So, you know, I'd have to test it long term, but they feel pretty heavy and pretty stout. The whole design's got a shallow V, but for the most part, fairly flat. There we go. Most part, fairly flat under your butt. So doing those static draws and stuff like that, it definitely scooted across the water. Good rocker front to bow, a lot of rocker in the bow. I did notice it getting pushed downwind a touch on this flat windy day we got today. Just a little bit of chop. So I got pushed around a little bit, but honestly just I would expect that on any playful boat. What I didn't expect was it to track as good as it did. It definitely tracked well, and when put on its edge, it came around really quickly. It just flicked right around. In the back, you have another round hatch. So round hatches all the way around. You do have 4 of them. They've got the center mounted day hatch. 1 bulkhead, 2 bulkhead, another bulkhead up here in the front. And then this is just a little catch bag for things you want access to throughout your day. One thing I don't love is just that it's got a 10-inch round hatch. I mean, I can work around it. I've worked around these for years, but I sure would like to see a bigger rear hatch because it does make it tough. If I'm trying to get my tent in there, my tent poles, it's really tough to work around that small of a hatch. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that review. I'm sorry it wasn't a little longer. Obviously losing that footage was a kind of a bummer, but I'm thankful for Rylan stopping by, making the time. And I did want to share my thoughts about this boat because I really enjoyed it. It was an impressive little kayak to me. It's also fairly affordable. So if somebody's looking at, getting into the sport and they want a performance sea kayak but don't want to spend a lot of money, it's a pretty good option. Now with that, I always tell people you can have light, strong, and cheap, but you got to pick 2. And this kayak does appear to be strong, so it's inexpensive, it's strong, but it is not lightweight. It's pretty heavy for a composite kayak. I believe there's multiple layup options on this kayak, so I'm sure you can spend a little bit more and get a lighter option. But in the fiberglass, it was pretty heavy duty. It's also made in Sri Lanka, so I'm not sure of the quality control and things like that. From my layman's eye, it looked really clean though. I will say that. It wasn't like it was scrappy and thrown together. It seemed like it was a well-built kayak, but I would love to hear somebody's long-term review and perspective of this brand, because for me, it's kind of a new one on the scene. I hadn't heard of Norse Kayaks before Rylan called, but after seeing it, I definitely want to know more. I definitely want to spend more time in it, and I definitely would love to hear from anybody that's owned one, has had one for a while. What are your thoughts on this boat? Huge shout out to Rylan for making that happen. If you guys are looking for one of these boats, I know of a few dealers up and down the West, in particular Alder Creek Canoe and Kayak. They're a great shop of ours. They sell Eddy Line, they sell Melker, and I believe they're carrying Norse Kayaks as well. And they do a great job with demos, opportunities for you guys to get out and try them. So again, as always, don't take my word for it. What I like might not be what you like. I want you to get in boats, I want you to try them out, and I want you to have a ton of fun doing it. Until next time, this is Dan wishing you happy paddling. We'll see you on the next one.